All right, we're back talking Westworld, episode 3. One of the most, I guess, I don't want to say mind-melting episodes yet, but one of the first episodes this season that'll really get you thinking, that'll really have you digging deep for theories and different ways you can try to explain characters and what could be happening. I'm excited to talk about it. It was a pretty tense episode, too, right off the top. What did we I'll let you start, John. What did we think about the first
Well, my first question here, and this is universal because I have some friends who watch it and they text me afterwards being like, "That's so confusing." Do you guys find it confusing?
No.
Okay, it's not
the show in general, or
I think the show is, and maybe this is some meta Rehoboam stuff where like the world decides that this is the way it's going to be, so this is the way it's going to be. I feel like people have done this with this show where like you just instinctively, when it finishes, you go, "What the hell did I just watch?" But if you just step back for a second, I feel like maybe I'm crazy. I feel like it's easy to.
I do think the last season was a little convoluted. It was a little too much.
It happened in season 1 too, and me and Kevin were talking about it today. Kevin doesn't watch anymore because season 1 was too confusing to him, and I was like, I think if you watch, like, it's just pretty straightforward. What you know, you're supposed to know, and then there are things you don't know, but it's not like it's confusing. It's just you don't know the answer to that yet.
yeah, it's a different situation. It's not like you got it explained to you and you didn't get it. You just haven't been explained like the actual answer yet.
It's like,
which is like that's my thing. It's like that's how shows should work, right? Like shows, you shouldn't just know the fucking answer every episode. But I think this season is very much not confusing. I think it opens up theories to think. I think there's a difference between making you think and it being confusing. Like I don't think this is confusing right now. They just want you to think about what it could be. Like that's. There's two different things. Like I've seen people say that already about the season. Like, this is so confusing. I don't know what the answers are. Well, you're not supposed to know. Like you're not. Which the big question of the episode is who is Charlotte? Who is in Charlotte's body? That's not confusing. You're just not supposed to know. Maybe the explanation will be confusing. Like I'm not going to give them full benefit of the doubt yet. Let's see what the answer is. Like maybe the joke's on us. The answer will be confusing. But right now, it is supposed to be a question. Like that is the whole point. You're supposed to go, well, what is it? It's supposed to make it kind of. It's supposed to be fun to think about. Which I think this episode was in that sense.
I walked out of a high school math class, and I don't know advanced trig yet, but I know what I'm supposed to know. I got what you taught me, and then there are just things you haven't taught me yet.
Did you like the episode?
I loved it. I very, very much liked it. I actually last night I'm back. I'm at my parents' house, and so last night I came home. My dad came down to New York and picked me up. And I just like threw off my whole day. I didn't even realize yesterday was Sunday, for being totally honest. So I didn't watch it until this morning. So I didn't get to watch my standard double watch. But I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome.
KenJac, what do you think?
I thought it was good as well. Definitely, I would say one of the slower episodes out of these ones so far, with the exception of the beginning. But at the same time, like, it's still interesting. I think it's a good setup for the next one. But maybe, and this is weird to say, but maybe my least favorite episode so far.
Really?
Interesting. Okay, because I like this. I think the first one is my favorite so far. I think this one is right behind the first one, but I get it. It's definitely a little slower. I think this had a lot of very tense vibes to it. I got the same kind of feeling. Maybe, right, like when they were when they were talking about like who's who, like I was like, oh shit.
I agree with that. I didn't think it was slow because, like you said, the tense moments. I thought between the tense moments and then like the acting, I thought was so powerful in almost every scene that it didn't. It was grabbing me, so it didn't feel slow. I guess there wasn't a ton happening, but it didn't feel slow at all.
It didn't grab me that much, only because this episode felt very Black Mirror-y to me. Right, like remember how we were saying in the beginning of this whole recap thing, like don't get too Black Mirror. This episode felt super Black Mirror, like where she's like, "Yeah, I know you came here every day to get this exact smoothie every single year, once a year." I was like,
there is a rather on the nose. There's an on the nose comment that I want your take on, because it felt a little Black Mirror, but we'll get to that. But I can see that. I can see that. So let's break it down though. I think it's easier to break it down this time because they really are just two storylines. It's Charlotte, and then it's Caleb and it's Charlotte and Dolores and Caleb and Dolores. But the Charlotte side of things is mostly just Charlotte. The episode starts out with a flashback. Charlotte's recording a message during the whole Westworld massacre. Dolores, we then see her recreating Charlotte. Pretty cool scene in the beginning. Tells her she has to become Charlotte. We don't know who Charlotte is, but she's like, to the person in Charlotte's body, you must be Charlotte. And that is the clear question of the episode. And we're done recapping. We'll discuss who we think is Charlotte and what are some of the popular theories. We also see Charlotte and Dolores looking at the pearls that Dolores has brought back from Westworld. One of them being the kind of blackish red pearl, and that is Bernard. That's kind of the hybrid, the human host hybrid type thing, where it's kind of a mix of both, which might be a foreshadow of some more things to come there. We find out that someone is buying stock in Delos with a takeover in mind. And I just had immediate Succession vibes just because of talking about takeover. It just reminded me of the last couple seasons of Succession, which is delayed now, by the way, which just fucking sucks. But that's a whole different ball wax for another time. We won't be doing Succession recaps this summer, it seems. So that's another big storyline. Delos is seems like it's about to be taken over due to a stock buy. We see Charlotte buy Delos Corporation. She's actually like cutting her wrists, and she's bleeding into like this I guess pool in front of the building. Pretty morbid scene. We kind of find more out about that in a little bit.
After seeing the Saudi death robot, which we should not forget about.
Yes, the big riot control robots, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which they bought, 30 of them, I believe they said?
Yeah, and then the Saudis backed out after Westworld happened. Like, if anything, buy more. Obviously, the robots work at killing people, so buy as many as possible.
She finds out Serac is the one buying up the Delos stock, which to her
back at it again.
Yeah, to her surprise, to us not. Like obviously the viewer, you're just like, all right, I know who's taking over. Delos. She then goes home and finds her ex. Her ex is kind of questioning her and like what she's about, what like her motives, like how she is as a person. And he's like, I felt like maybe West will change you, but he's like, this has always been you. She's clearly having an emotional battle, which makes sense because as the viewer, we know she's not really Charlotte. She then goes and talks to her son, has an interesting conversation with her son. Some stuff
also
about
doesn't remember she has a son though.
Yeah, that was an issue with me. Where like, did Dolores just give her no background on who this person is?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Like in any movie ever, when you have an alias, they're like, okay, here's your folder, study up.
Yes.
This we know. Like you have a husband,
and that would be fact number 1. You have a son. Like literally fact number 1. Don't forget, you have a fucking kid.
Like you have an ex who has keys to your house. You have a child. Like these are things you have to tell someone when they're pretending to be somebody.
I just don't get it. Like how does that slip the mind? I don't know. Whatever.
Her son, though, has these arrows on his pillow and his bedding that people have noted, and these are the same arrows that show up in the intro to the Westworld opening for this season on Rehoboam, which I've been saying wrong the entire time. Very cool. But the arrows on his bedding are actually in the intro. So I don't know if that's just a slight Easter egg or if that's a bit of a tease. We'll see. You got to keep an eye on shit like that. But it is clearly a very emotional moment for the character. Her son's like, I want my old mom back or something like that. And it's clearly not working right. Like there's clearly a divide on her becoming Charlotte. And not only does she not want to be Charlotte, she's struggling being Charlotte. Then she's back, more work at Delos, finds out there's a mole in the company, and the mole is helping Serac. Again, we don't know who the mole is, but not a total shock because this begins to line up with what we've seen in the previous episodes. We've mentioned that for the most part, it seems like the timelines are all at the same time. So that does make sense. There's a mole helping Serac. We know he was able to get Maeve's pearl somehow. Whether that's related or not, we'll find out. Dolores then meets Charlotte. This is a pretty big moment. I think this is probably the tensest moment of the episode. She goes to a hotel and meets Charlotte. Charlotte has not just been cutting her wrist, but cutting her entire body. Like she has these circles, which kind of look like the Rehoboam rings that show up, right? The anomalies or the divergence in its algorithm.
The crop circles on her body.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they're trying to go for, but that's what I immediately, when I see a circle in the show right now, that's what I'm thinking of. That's just because they've been so kind of ingrained in our mind watching it. Again, she's been self-harming. Dolores tells Charlotte. They go back and forth about the takeover and Serac and Delos, and they're buying stock. And Dolores mentions to Charlotte that she'll need to pay a visit to an old friend for money. A lot of people seem to think that might be Man in Black, William. Speaking of money, Delos, that seems to be a connection that might make sense. That was the only name that popped into my head. I don't know about you guys. I figured old friend helping, block up takeover. You got to go with the guy with money, right?
Yeah, that was absolutely where my mind went. And judging by the preview for the next episode, your mind went to the right place.
Yep.
Clear connection through some sort of love for them. But I think that is what I liked so much about this scene, is that you don't know what the love is. Is it sexual tension? Is it like a relationship? Or is it a mother-daughter, father-son, like parental type vibe? Like there is some sort of bond and love between them. So you know that they're like, whether it's Dolores one way or the other, and again, we'll get into who is who, there is something there. There is a connection where it is a very important character from heart to heart. I liked how tense that was. It wasn't exactly, again, I'll compare it to Watchmen if you want to talk about things with fractured or serial storytelling of character each episode. But it did give me that Watchmen vibe when you're finding out who Cal was in Watchmen and who Dr. Manhattan was. Like I was like kind of on the edge of my seat, like, are we going to find out here? We didn't. But they teased it enough and gave you enough hints where it kind of gets the brain going. I really liked that scene in the hotel. She says a couple other things, too. She says, Dolores tells Charlotte, you belong to me. You know that, right? Pretty big line. And then Dolores is in black. Charlotte's in white. We know there's a lot of black and white, good and bad, I guess, metaphors and symbolic imagery in this show to begin with. So there was a lot going on in that scene, even though it was rather, I think, it played out rather simple, but there was a lot to take in there.
No, I thought they were going to have sex, to be honest. That was the only thing I thought during that entire scene. I was like, what are they about to do? I thought they were about to fuck, didn't fuck. A little bit disappointed.
I think I think it was definitely more, I don't know if we're getting into the theories of who is Charlotte yet, but I think that scene lends it to being not Peter Abernathy.
Okay, so that's my question from that scene, because then we'll get into the theories after. But so you found it, John, as more of like a sexual tension type love and connection, as opposed to like a parental type thing.
Yeah, the big spoon, little spoon was too much for father-daughter.
Which you've seen before with Dolores. And KenJac, I think I agree with you. I thought like the way Charlotte kind of moved to Dolores, like, oh, something's about to happen here.
Touching her face the same way she touched Teddy's face. That's what I kind of thought for a split second it might be Teddy.
Yep. Again, there was a lot to take from the scene. I thought that was the tensest moment. We see the flashback we saw from the beginning of the episode. Charlotte's message to it ended up being her son. She was recording a message to her son, Nathan, and she's singing "You Are My Sunshine." And then we see later on that is beginning to help her. She's listening or rewatching that message as she's driving, and it's kind of helping her develop a connection to her kid. She's also receiving these voicemails, which are just one-tone notes. You don't know at the time what they are. We figure out at the end what they actually do, what they mean. And then she goes to a park to pick up her kid. She picks up her kid, and there's a fucking pedophile. Just a really creepy pedophile who's like kind of preying on her son. She tells her son to go play. She's going to take care of this guy, which, by the way, did you notice one of the kids her son plays with is wearing a mask?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like, that was like the first thing I noticed. Like, I don't know what that says about the time we're living in right now. I was like, that guy's got a mask on.
Right.
Guy's wearing a mask. No gloves, though. She then questions this guy, like, who the fuck are you? Starts choking him out, tells him that she's a predator, killing a predator, basically. The predator line, we'll bring that back up. I thought that was maybe a potential hint of who she is. But she just kills this pedophile straight up and steals his dog.
That was a dope line. That line, well, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like the harder I squeeze, the more I feel like me or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's a strong line.
Very strong. Very dark character moment. Very predator-like moment, which might conflict with some of the theories we'll get to. So she, again, kills the pedophile, takes the dog. She's able to get in touch with Sirach. This is kind of the end of Charlotte's storyline for this episode. It turns out all of the tones line up to play You Are My Sunshine. And it gets her through, like, it's kind of like a passcode, right, to get through on a phone call, to get to the other side of the line, and she sets up a meeting. She sees Palm Klementov's character, aka Mantis. I don't remember her name from this show. I don't know if I will, but it's Mantis from Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. She meets up with Sirach, but it's a hologram. She puts on the glasses we saw from the first episode, so it's actually not. It's not really Sirach, or what we know of Sirach. It's a hologram version of him. We find out that real Charlotte, Delos Charlotte, was the mole. So Charlotte is looking for the mole, unaware that she is actually the mole. She has been the mole this whole time for Sirach. So it seems that Sirach's not quite sure what's going on there, but Charlotte is actually the one feeding information. And he needs the information that was uploaded, all the data that was uploaded at the end of season 2, all the guest data, and only Dolores has the encryption key. And he notes that, he's like, I have someone else help me. You're not the only person I'm controlling here, which makes sense because I don't think it would have made sense so far to say that Charlotte smuggled Maeve out of Westworld. So you'd have to assume that the other person helping Serac is the one that brought Maeve out. So he's like, look, you're helping me too, but I also have other people helping me. I know that Dolores has this encryption key so I can get all this data. I just need to get to that data.
It's like when, what do you call it, the end of The Departed, when the other cop turns out to be dirty. And he's like, what, do you think you're the only one on Jack Nicholson's payroll?
And then boom, just immediately killed.
So fast.
Yes, that's the end of Charlotte's arc. Do we just want to wait to talk more Charlotte because we'll talk about the identity?
Well, I got a few things. This, and I could be very wrong on this. I could have just not misunderstood, but miswatched, really. Is she watching different versions of that video? Or are they just cutting it up in a different way? Because it was like, there was one time where it felt like she went right into singing, this is the recording for Nathan, where it's like, she went right into like singing that song. And then there's another one where it felt like she had much longer message before singing the song.
I don't think so. I think it's the same thing.
That would make sense. It would almost be confusing that she would have 2 copies.
I think it's just a way to not show the whole thing every time.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I figured, but like the show makes you overthink everything. I'm like, wait, does she have multiple copies of the video where there are different worlds that happened?
You're conditioned to look at everything. Again, we talked about last week. Some people had a theory that dog was actually Dolores' horse. Right. It turns out it's not. I mean, maybe it still is. See, that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe it is. I could be dead. Maybe it still is the fucking horse. All right. So we'll talk about Charlotte.
And is the giving of that video by the the other guy? Is he telling her, "I know you're dead. No, you're not you."
There was. I don't think you were. So there was a bit of an undertone of like, I think you're the mole. like there was something to it where it just felt like. Yeah, maybe he knows that it's not actually her. He's suspicious. He thinks she's involved in it. There's a lot of tension between her and her Delos coworkers, the people under her. Because obviously she's a CEO. So I don't know. I think you're onto something.
The way he said, like, I figured we'll let you decide what to do with this or whatever. Almost like balls in your court, but no, I know.
Yeah. You're right. The way he said that, I could buy that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So Dolores also has another part of the story, and that's with Caleb. It starts out she's in the back of an ambulance. I know we had some questions, people talking about if she's a host, why does she have hooked up to an oxygen tank, all that. I mean, obviously it's because they don't know who she is. They have no idea. She thinks she's human. They talk about having issues with her vitals. They obviously don't know. They think she's human. She's not. We see in the ambulance Caleb pulls up that Rico app, the app like the Grand Theft Auto app, and sees that they're being pulled over by cops who are actually trying to get paid to take Dolores and obviously kill her, do something with her because they accepted the hit or the purchase or whatever on that app. So he knows something's about to happen. He warns Dolores, like, if they take you, you're going to die. So one of the cops shoots one of the paramedics and then shoots another one. And Caleb kind of tries to fight him and distract him. And Dolores stabs the shit out of one of the police officers in the neck, just blood spurting out, and kills both them.
Cool gun. And the weird wrist gauntlet gun.
Very cool, which remind me of, actually, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, remind me of like Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit, where you're required to have the thing in order to shoot the gun. It's got to be connected to your actual wrist. Kind of had that like vibe to it. So whatever, she kills both the cops who were, I don't know, I guess you could say dirty cops trying to go out and find her and kill her. She takes the police car, but she mentions to Caleb, like, hey, what's your name? He's like, Caleb. And he's like, you're going to have to change your name. They're going to come after you. Be careful. He then later on goes to say goodbye to his mother. She doesn't, again, remember him. We find out why in a little bit. She doesn't really think that's him. And as he's leaving, he's stopped because he's been wanted on that app. People have made the connection to him and Dolores, so 2 people are trying to pick him up. They bring him to his old construction site. They're hanging him over the classic hanging a guy over the edge of the building. They're saying, oh, it's going to be a workplace accident if you don't speak up and tell us where Dolores is. We need to know information. He's got this thing up here on the roof of his mouth. It's like a drip. Yeah, I didn't love that.
Gross.
Then not like it was a bad part of the episode. Like, that really skeeved me out. I was like, whoa, no. It was mentioned a little bit in the first episode with Marshawn Lynch, again, it's called the drip, but it controls your vitals. And there's a way to shut it off, and I guess Caleb shut it off because the guys who were trying to get information had him turn it back on, and they crank it all the way the fuck up, and it's like basically making his brain explode.
Yeah, what were they cranking up exactly?
His heart rate.
Just his heart rate?
Yeah, you can control the vitals there, and he's like a military grade one, so it's really good. They were fucking him up. It was brutal. It made me uncomfortable. Westworld did a good job with that. His robot friend, comes up to try and save him. And I really thought the robot was going to beat the shit out of these two guys. And then
has there ever been a more worthless? No wonder the Saudis backed out. Speaking of earlier, this robot was worthless.
Well, that was a construction robot. That one stunk.
He's still, you figure, can do a little bit of something. I mean, he just went up there to commit suicide.
So Dolores turned him on and was trying to use him to kill the two guys, right? Like he didn't turn on. So what was the point of that? Was that just to misdirect us?
No, I thought Dolores turned him on to try and because I thought Dolores found a robot to go help her at least buy time, right? That's how I
assumed.
Yeah.
I thought it was done as in like that guy's his helper, and he
could just randomly turn on
whenever Caleb is on site.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Either way you look at it, useless. Just again flicked off the. He flicked. He just boom. Okay.
Did the guy even touch him, or did he just sidestep him? It was just he just walked off. It was insane. I was just, like a Roomba would have been better in that situation than that fucking robot. He provided no help at all.
It was like the worker drones from Chappie.
Yes, that's what it reminds me of. As he was falling off, I was like, he fell off in slow motion. I was kind of like, oh, like he's gonna catch himself and crawl back up. And then he just fell and he exploded. I'm like, oh, all right, he's done.
And like our only other experience with this robot is he was pretty agile. Like he climbed up the side of the building last time, and this time he just, I don't know, just useless, completely useless robot.
All the cops, man, don't be a hero next time.
Yeah, but Dolores did buy herself. If she bought herself some time because she's behind him, and she's like, I'm right here, and just fucking kills him.
I thought of it like I always thought of him as Caleb's helper, and like almost like his security blanket on the site. And since he was there, it was like, oh shit, Caleb's here. He needs help.
You know, you ever get that moment where you did something dangerous, you don't realize it until later on, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I could have really died there. That's basically Caleb with that robot. He's got to be like, damn, I thought that thing really had my back.
Yeah.
Like, I was screwed. Like, I was eating lunch up there, like that old New York photo from the 30s. Like,
I figured he'd catch me if I fell. No, he's doing nothing.
He does get a flashback. He gets a flashback of him and Kid Cudi in these masks, and they're fighting back when I already forget the actual character's name. We're just calling him Kid Cudi.
Francis.
Yeah, Francis. When he dies, we all see some water. We find out in a minute what that kind of water symbolizes. We've seen that ocean crashing before with his character, which has been some foreshadowing. They then meet up in this diner, and Dolores kind of rattles his cage a bit, tells him really, really specific stories about his life, how he was left at that diner a long time ago when he was a kid by his mother. Turned out his mother had schizophrenia, then was institutionalized right then and there. And he was basically, they called child services and had him help, and that's how his life kind of went in motion. He's been scarred with that for life. She gives him the details, like with the food he ordered, who the waitress was, and he's starting to get really pissed off at her. He's like, how the fuck do you know this? Are you messing with me? This is bullshit. And she reveals that, or Dolores reveals that Rehoboam is predicting and deciding people's futures. Now, it knows everything. And he kind of sensed that, right? He kind of knew that. He mentioned that when he didn't get his job, or he was doing an interview for a job early on when we first met him, where he's like, like the system decides this, the system kind of has it out for me, and it's viewing him as not worthy of a job, even though people say he's quote unquote qualified. And we learn that more about Rehoboam is that it's built its own world, right? They've been able to build this own world, a copy world to play out and find these scenarios and predictions, and that's how they establish basically how life is dictated. There's a prediction that she reveals. They go to this pier, this boardwalk, which I think it's the one they go to in La La Land, really famous boardwalk in LA. A little less happy this time around when we see it. He kills himself in the future on that boardwalk. And that Rehoboam knows this, and that's why I won't let him do anything else with his life, because they just say it's not worth it. They're like, we're not going to give you a promotion. We're not going to give you this better job. You're not allowed to do these other things because we know it ain't worth it for you because you're just going to end up killing yourself at one point. But then I thought this is where it was pretty complex in a good way, not too confusing. I just like the way they approached it. She's basically saying they put you in a cage. And that's why Dolores, even though she doesn't like humans and she's out for something and exacting vengeance and a revolution, she can relate to Caleb because she's like, they put you in a cage. And that's essentially what they did to Dolores and the host with Westworld. They put you in a cage and they're deciding your life for you. She's like, even though they say you can't do this because of your suicide, they're letting that dictate you. They're making sure that actually happens, as opposed to seeing if there could be a different life path where he averts it. So they really explain the system, which I'm happy about because, look, I give them the benefit of the doubt. We've likely done so far, but I didn't know if they'd really explain Rehoboam and the predictive system. I like they kind of laid it out there, and they really let us know what to expect with this thing and how it is kind of making the humans as well hosts in a sense, like uncontrolled stories, basically. At least that was my takeaway.
I love the Caleb Dolores storyline. It's by far my favorite. And like there the two things that I really like. I love the pier scene was my favorite scene of the show. I thought Dolores and Aaron Paul fucking smoked it. But their whole journey this episode I thought was great because I thought KenJac mentioned it earlier how he thinks he hopes the show is more about the human condition rather than what makes someone human rather than Black Mirror. And I actually took the exact opposite of you out of this, where I thought they were basically like showing like what makes you human is like all your pain and loss, like going through like all like the worst parts about his life. I think in the after show, one of the writers talked about how it was like they basically kind of tried to do it as a Christmas story, where it's like Ghost of Christmas Past and Ghost of Christmas Future and kind of deal. And I thought that was like, I don't know. I feel like in shows it's like they're always trying to tell you like to remember you're human or humanize someone, all the good things about your life and what you've done. And Dolores took the exact opposite approach, where it's like this is all the suffering you've endured, and that kind of showed his humanity. And then I loved on the pier when they were explaining the system, where it's like it's just the real system. Like we don't have a fancy name for it in the world, but like the same system is in place now. Mm-hmm. When she said like they won't invest in you, and that is what ensures that the outcome will be that. I thought that was a fucking 10 out of 10 scene.
Yeah, I think the methodology is just what didn't really do it for me. It's like hey, you're gonna kill yourself right here. You know why? Because you're really good with guns and you're depressed. It's like, yeah, really fucking fancy robotic algorithm system you got here. This guy knows how to use a gun and he's depressed, so he's gonna kill himself right here at the pier. And because he likes water. If
it was a fancy system, you'd give me bigger than a smaller than a 2-year window.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
In 12 years, you're going to kill yourself? No, give me the day.
The dude likes water. He's shot guns before, and he's depressed, so he's going to kill himself right here. We know. Like, fuck you.
I can actually
bad robotic system. And also, if this robotic system's so smart, it would have predicted him getting assaulted on the top of this concrete structure and getting saved by Dolores. So it should be aware of the existence of a Dolores in this case.
I can accept that. Like, I liked it, but I get that. What I do think, though, and I feel like you still agree with this, though, is that I like the concept, though, of like her comment, they put you in a cage, where it creates this maybe question of good versus bad for Dolores, right? Or whoever the fuck Dolores is, where, oh, all right, the humans, it's not human bad, computer good. Like there is a question now as to who is actually the good guy here, who is the bad guy, because everyone in a sense has been put in a cage, whether you leave Westworld or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is just like it's harping on Calvinism. It's just predeterminism at its finest, more or less. And like instead of there being God in this case, it's just the Rehoboam system. And I haven't fully bought into it yet. Like I like the idea of like, and this is what I've been saying since the beginning, is that I think Cal and Dolores are going to be on the same side, but have different like reasons as to why they're on that side, and that's what's going to make them allies in this case. And that is like right as of right now what it is. Like that's why they're on the same team. But the methodology is where I'm lost right now. I haven't bought into that yet. Black Mirror-ish.
That's fair. That's fair. I hated for most of the episode until he finally explained it. Him like willing to die for her. I was like, this is bullshit. He met her once. Like, why would he die?
But I like, so this is my only issue with the episode. This is my only one line I didn't love, and I thought it was too on the nose. And is when he said, "You are the first real thing that has happened to me in a long time." I felt like that was really implied. Like he liked what he had here. He's like, oh, it's a real thing. Like I've been dealing with this Kid Cudi in my ear the whole time. I've been going on apps to do deeds for people. Like this is a real thing. I thought it was implied, which made you kind of sad to watch. You're like, fuck, he has no idea though. Like he thinks it's real. But so when you come out and say it, it's like, all right, let's have a little subtlety to it. Like
yeah, exactly.
More nuance. The only line I didn't love doesn't ruin the episode for me. I was like, I'm like, I feel like, as a viewer, maybe you can get it. But then again, like you said in the beginning of the episode, some people are like, this whole thing's confusing. So maybe they're just trying to dumb it down in some areas. I don't know. Yeah. I just feel like the first season of Westworld wouldn't have had a comment like that. Anything else from the main storylines? Because now we're about to talk about who's in Charlotte's body. You just want to get right into that?
Let's do it.
All right, so there's a lot of theories. There's one that I think a lot of people have centered in on. Let me get yours first, KenJac. Right now, who do you think is in Charlotte's body?
I really don't have any idea because with the whole nearly make love scene, I thought it might be Teddy again. Like they're resurrecting him because their relationship does seem pseudo-sexual in a way and like more, I don't know, intimate than she's had with any other host that we know of other than maybe her dad. But I think her dad's dead. Like I thought it might be her dad for a second, but I think her dad's gone, right?
Yeah, but her dad is also another option people have pointed out.
I think that the spooning takes dad out. I don't think you spoon with dad.
So do you think the spooning eliminates dad?
I think so. I think you don't spoon your dad. I think.
Do you have a guess?
What's that?
Do you have a guess? Like who's your pick?
I think Clementine.
Okay.
My thing was when she sees her husband, who she doesn't know who he is, her first reaction is go kiss him. And I think that's like a prostitute mentality, where you're like, like the only thing this guy wants, the only thing to shut him up is to let
Interesting.
him me,
okay.
Let him have me.
Interesting. All right, Clementine is one. People throw out Angela as well. People have also thrown out Caleb, the Westworld Reddit. This is not the one they're zeroed in on. Some people have said it's actually Caleb in Charlotte's body, which would be a bit of a mind fuck. But the most popular one right now is that Dolores is actually Wyatt, who you'll recall from the first season, which was the narrative to basically kill everyone in Westworld and ended up killing Bernard, is that Dolores is actually Wyatt and Charlotte is actually Dolores. And that it's obviously they merged in the first season of Westworld, they merged Wyatt with Dolores, and this would be a split of the both. And that's why Dolores right now is a bit more ruthless and a killer, and Charlotte has a little more empathy. Still has that mentality. We saw her kill the pedophile, but has that mentality. They say maybe it's the killing machine inside of her. Again, he has that narrative where he can be a killer, but also the comment of "you belong to me."
I think she seemed too weak in the beginning to be Dolores. When she's very confused and like, who am I? What am I supposed to be? Like that seemed a little too. But is that a little too unsure of herself to be Dolores?
But is that because we haven't seen her stripped? Well, because we haven't seen her we haven't seen her since that Wyatt merger in a long time, obviously.
Right.
Because that all happened in season 1. I get what you're saying. And I don't fully buy into that yet, but that is the theory it seems like most people have zeroed in on. Teddy's another one because of the love angle, but it's been noted that he's in the valley beyond, so it may not even be possible. And then Peter Abernathy, your father's another one. Some people have kind of countered it, said he's never really fully gained consciousness, but that it would explain the parental connections here because we see that the parent connection with Charlotte and how she's really adapting to taking Nathan in as a son, even though she's not actually Charlotte, he's not actually her son. So those seem to be kind of the most popular ones. But the Wyatt and Dolores split, I think, for the reasons of kind of like the killer mentality, the you belong to me, but also because people seem to think that would be kind of the craziest reveal. And I imagine the reveal here is going to be pretty crazy, right? That's what it seems like, at least.
Also,
yes, but I hope not too crazy. I don't know if the Wyatt Dolores split would have to be explained very well for me to like it.
It's a long ass callback. They would have to like make sure they pointed that out again.
You also never want, and I always use this clip, and I'm going to put it in here. If you've seen Role Models, the guy who plays like the nerdy guy, he tells a story when they go to the campfire, that really long story, and he goes,
The barn door creaked open ever so slowly. Standing there with the moon at his back and holding the severed head of the pediatrician's mother in his hand was Philip! The pizza delivery boy from when they ordered pizza at the beginning of the story. Come on, you guys. All right, whatever. You guys are unscarable. Think you can do better? Who's got a better story? Come on.
You can't have that. You can't do that because then you're like, okay. So it's got to have that payoff. You're right. If it is wide, it has to be a little more, I think, teased a bit maybe in the next one. My favorite one, though, is Man in Black, William. That Charlotte is just the Man in Black. Now, that may contradict because people say, like, we have to go see a friend. And a lot of people think that when Dolores says that, she's actually going to go see the Man in Black because he has the money. But it's that predator mentality, that killer predator type mentality that Charlotte had that kind of gives me that vibe that it could be William. I don't know. We know he has a daughter as well. He killed his daughter, didn't realize he killed his daughter, so maybe he's having that sympathy, that empathy now with Charlotte's son. I don't know. William was the one I liked the most. That's the reveal I think I would enjoy.
I'd be okay with that, but then what's the next episode?
Maybe finding out. Because remember, we don't know really where because the timelines right now seem to link up for the most part. We don't know the timeline of the William thing because remember, he was the post-credit scene of season 2, and he was in this futuristic world. We just didn't really know exactly where he is or where he is right now. So I think it's an easy explanation because we don't know that story fleshed out at all. It wouldn't be much of a heel turn if it turns out that his timeline is a flashback and he ended up being a pearl that Charlotte or Dolores is able to leave the park with. I don't know. I kind of
I'd be okay with William.
Because especially with the next episode being his and apparently everything converging, that one kind of makes sense.
But William, like, one of the reasons too, I think of Clementine is it's just like, I don't know. I feel like William would demand a little more. Like William would demand a file to be like, what do I need to know?
Yeah, I guess I could see. You think he'd want more information? Okay.
I think he wouldn't be like, okay, I'm yours. Tell me what to do.
Yeah. I could definitely see
I'm going to go make out with this man and call this person my baby. Like, I think there'd be a little bit more culture shock to that, other than just carving the runes into herself.
It's the thing is, though, and I think I like this, there are a lot of options, and there's a lot of ways to explain each one, and I think that's what has me so intrigued here. That's why I think I'm definitely hooked, is that I like this reveal. I like that the big question right now is, who is Charlotte? She's a key cog in this machine to having the revolution started and be successful for Dolores. And you can kind of look at a bunch of different people and explain for certain reasons why they've dropped the right amount of hints, and I think it is all going to make a pretty great deal of sense. So I do like this question. Here's another question that people are raising. Is Serac even a real person? We know he was a hologram this episode, but is Serac like a thing, or is he just a simulation?
No, he's a fucking AI. He's a rampant AI for sure.
But when he's with Maeve, that's real, right?
So here's the other thing.
He's not a hologram.
People are within a dream.
People are saying is the big oh shit moment that Maeve is with Serac on the other side of things. Because they obviously created this other world with Rehoboam where they can predict things. Is that other simulation? Like, is that happening within the simulation and everything else we're seeing is happening within, like, the real world? Which I think that would be an oh shit moment if they're like, none of this shit was real. This is the simulation. And Dolores needs to get into that simulation. Like, I think that's where, like, the split may end up being kind of another big reveal here. Because the Charlotte thing isn't the only big reveal. Like, that's just definitely not the only big twist here. So I think that's a lot of people are saying is that, like, the oh shit moment might be the fact that Serac is in the simulation. And that's that other predictive world. And that's what Dolores needs to go in and try to do. Some people say that she may be in there in some scenes already. So we seem pretty comfortable with the timeline here, but they may throw a wrench in it. And I think a lot of it has to do with that simulation.
I thought that scene was I didn't care for that scene that much. I thought he's too calm while being too revealing at a clandestine meeting.
Yep.
Like he kept
might be wise in AI though.
It's like, here, he's fucking expositioning it. He's like, oh, really? Remember when I recruited you to be my spy in this operation and get all this all this stuff? It's like,
yeah,
well,
it's like,
no, why would you be doing that other than for us? And that's like either bad screenwriting or it's a plot.
Right. It's like a play when they have like a one-sided phone call.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? You said that Timmy's going to the hospital. Like, you wouldn't repeat that back to someone.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like if he was angry and he's like, I fucking hired you to do a job, then that would be, I feel like that might be something you say. But the way he just calmly explained to her that she's the mole, I thought that was, that did not
But that's why I think he may be a simulation, why he may not be real.
It's either a really bad screenwriting or just really, really interesting plot by Sirach.
I don't think that doesn't hook me as saying he's. I don't think he's real, but I don't think it's because of that.
He's calm. Oh, I can see that. Yeah,
because he's bad at explaining things. I feel like he would be better at explaining, or like smarter to know not to give things away.
Determining the entire world's fate, and he just is that bad at that. Like, no way.
He has a very machine-like demeanor to him, though. I feel like
he's an AI.
Yeah,
he's definitely an AI.
And then we have a user on Twitter, Hamlet. I don't know. You got to know if you have a confusing Twitter name. I'm not going to say it right. Is Dolores actually the good guy? Which kind of ties into that. Like, I guess we've kind of like, yeah, she's good, but she's also kind of evil because she's going against the humans. Like, is Dolores good through this whole thing? Because I think in the end, it makes sense she would kind of fight for humans as well here, right? Because while she's going after humans, I think the Caleb thing is kind of a tease that she's going to side with them because, again, like I said, they're also trapped. Per her words.
I mean, Caleb's a simp. He's helping the Terminators.
Yes.
He's an asshole. I mean, the only good guy in the show right now, as far as we know, is Bernard. Bernard is the one guy we should all be rooting for because he wants the symbiotic relationship between hosts and humans. Humans are bad. The hosts led by Dolores are bad. Bernard is the only one that wants this all to go smoothly for both parties involved.
There's a user on Reddit, SoxFan1014. I don't know which one, John. I don't know if that's Chicago or Boston. So
I don't even know until like 5 years ago. I didn't even know people referred to the White Sox as the Sox.
He says Nathan Hale is the same name as the Revolutionary War spy Nathan Hale, which is an interesting little nod that she's obviously a spy. Charlotte is right now. She was a kind of a spy before as her real self, and now a spy within a spy. And then Twitter user Arthur_Darrow25 noted this. I don't say it. Bjarke Ingels is a real architect who actually designed the future world of San Francisco. They actually brought in a real architect.
That's what Norwegian dogs do. Bjarke.
Did you see something that it's what is Delos? Spain's art museum?
Yeah, it's Spain's art museum. But then a lot of the other San Francisco future world stuff is actually from a real architect. It looks insane. I mean, this show looks fucking incredible. Yeah. The look is insane.
Where is Delos, by the way?
Like
San Francisco.
In San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew that when Charlotte, went to go see Dolores, she was leaving town, but I didn't know where she was going. I knew she was going to LA. I didn't know she was coming from.
One of the helicopters she got in looked super cheap in this episode. I don't know. Like,
the doors were closing.
Yeah, the doors were closing. They were jittery closing. They had fingerprints all over them. I was like, come on. Like, take 2 seconds, fix that up real quick. Everything else looks so sleek. And that one moment, it looked so bad.
I'll tell you what. Nothing makes you
so cheap closing.
Nothing makes you not want to ever get into a self-driving car more than shit when a self-driving car locks you in. They do that in the movie Upgrade. Really cool Blumhouse movie if you've never seen Upgrade. This one, she gets locked in the car. I'm like, all right, well, I'm never going to get in one of those cars. I don't want to get in a car that's going to control where I go and can lock my fucking doors. That's bullshit. Never doing that. Never getting in that. Final thoughts. Next episode is a William Man in Black episode. It's a really quick tease. We see one shot of him looking old and really worn out in like this old rundown house or mansion. He's just looking disheveled. We see another one of a kid looking on to like a nuclear explosion. Not a long tease, but obviously it's a William episode, and everything we've heard from critics, people who've seen these episodes in advance, is that everything comes together next episode. We kind of get a lot of answers, and it kicks into gear for the final four and the final arc of this season. Any last thoughts?
Right?
Yep, 8.
Yeah, no, that's what I read. I read Buckle Up for next episode. I read next episode's the big one where things get going. So I mean, even in the tease, it looked like there was a lot of bullets flying around in one scene, a lot of glass flying around in one scene at least. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm down for William. William's like always been one of my favorite characters. So anytime he can.
I really like the way they've gone about presenting this season because they've given you a lot of depth. They've given you a lot of questions, but also some answers along the way. And they've done it in a nice, broken up way where the next one you're going to learn one more character and it's going to tie together and you're going to really feel invested, I think, in at least each one, at least their storylines. You're going to know a lot about each one. As opposed to kind of splitting it up each episode where they're kind of strung together over the course of time. You really feel like you got a lot of meat on each person, and you get it for each one. which again, I mean, that's why I'm telling people to watch this show. I think if you're out on season 2, come back. I think it's definitely worth it.
I think I'm officially ready to say, if you're out on season 2, come back. You know, you could add 1 or 2 good episodes. I think after 3, I'm like, it's all set up. Come back.
There's a very clear reimagining of how to do this show. They've gone about things very, very differently. And I am curious. Again, I keep referencing Watchmen because Watchmen's a good example of a thing with a shitload of material. There's so much to soak in with Watchmen, but each episode was the same thing. It was a different character each time, with a little bit of other people sprinkled in. And they found a way to tell that story and build everything all together, where the last final episodes really hit hard because you felt like you knew so much about each one because you've had so many separate moments to focus on each of them. I'm curious if that's a storytelling method that HBO really likes going forward with here. Not that it's like something they invented, but it'd be a nice storytelling method for these shows that are complex and are there to raise questions and have you think, because I think it has worked. Yeah. Anything else, William? I'm excited for that episode. I mean, Ed Harris, come on. It's King. I don't care who the fuck Ed Harris is playing. If it's an Ed Harris episode, I'm in.
I'm going to go watch The Rock after this. What a great movie. Ed Harris, King.
Watching all Ed Harris stuff for the next week. All right, that's it. We'll be doing, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the bell icon, when these drop, hit the like button as well. Let us know below in the comments section who you think Charlotte is. I mean, that's the question. Give us your theory. If you got a theory that we don't have, I want to hear it, because I think the answer may be one that people don't know right now. That's the one that the theory that makes the most sense on Charlotte is the one we haven't talked about, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's it for KenJac and John. Jeff Lowe, we'll talk to you next time.